Hi! I've been making milk kefir for 10 years. In this video, I'll show you how to make milk kefir and a ton of useful tips. Milk kefir is low in lactose and easier to digest than regular milk. It's also one of the best sources of probiotics containing a diverse array of beneficial microbes to support our gut health and immune system. Homemade milk kefir from real kefir grains usually contain about 30 to 50 strains of probiotic microbes, much higher than the commercial products you buy from grocery stores that are made from a starter culture. You can also avoid unnecessary additives and sweeteners. There's a ton of benefits to make them at home and save on grocery costs at the same time. This is a culture will be used to ferment our milk kefir at home. They're called milk kefir grains. They're not real grains. They're just little jelly-like balls. They're basically a living structure containing a mix of probiotic bacteria and yeast. Milk kefir culture loves the fat, so the higher fat content whole milk is always the better choice. You can use skim milk, but I will avoid being completely fat-free, and I would recommend rotating between skim milk and whole milk. For me, I use strictly whole milk at home. To maximize health benefit, I always use organic milk. It's a non-negotiable for me, but if you're constrained by budget, it's not a must. You can use non-organic milk as well. So now let's talk about how you can get your hands on some of these milk kefir grains. If you have a friend making milk kefir already, you can ask your friend. That's your best bet. Otherwise, check your local Kijiji or Facebook marketplace for someone selling their excess grains. Sometimes you can also find them at health food stores or online stores, but just be careful. Like, I would be cautious about how they're being kept alive, like if they have been fed recently or consistently, how they're being stored. Are they being kept in the temperature that's not damaging the grains, how they're being shipped to you, such as if they are being exposed in unfavorable conditions for an extended period of time. Now that you have your milk and kefir grain ready, let's make some milk kefir. So should you be using plastic strainer and utensil or metal strainer and utensil? Well, some people will tell you not to use metal because you shouldn't have your kefir grains in contact with metal, which will damage your culture. In my opinion, there's no perfect answer because if you're using plastic, you're gonna have microplastic leaking to your food. Personally, I have used both, and in the last many years, I have mainly been using my metal ones, and I haven't experienced any negative impact to the health of my culture. I have a strainer, canning funnel, and a clean glass jar ready to strain some milk kefir. I like to use a canning funnel and then set up my strainer on top. This way I can strain my milk kefir directly into the storage jar. My kefir has been fermenting in room temperature for about a day. You can tell they're ready when the kefir is starting to separate in the bottom of the jar like this. At this point, you want to strain the milk kefir and remove the kefir grains from it. Pour the content of the fermentation jar into the strainer, then stir with a spoon to help the kefir pass through. You will need to do this in batches until all the kefir is strained and only the kefir grains are left in the strainer. During fermentation, the kefir grains feed on the milk and turn the milk into a thick consistency like this. The more kefir grains you have, the faster and more milk you will be able to ferment. Knowing this, you can control how much milk kefir you produce on a regular basis. As you can see, I have about 1 tablespoon of kefir grains in the strainer. Transfer it back into the fermentation jar, and we'll come back to this in a moment. Once you strain your milk kefir, keep them in a sealed jar and transfer them to the fridge immediately. The amount you cannot consume right away can be kept in the fridge for about 1 to 2 weeks. Sometimes you can store them beyond 2 weeks for as long as they don't taste or smell bad. The older kefir does become a little more sour or develop a cheesy flavor, but it shouldn't taste spoiled.
Back to the fermentation jar where we have put the grains in earlier. I only wash the jar every few batches, but I don't wash it every time, because the leftover kefir in it just add to the culture for the next batch. Add 4 cups of milk to submerge the kefir grains, but make sure to leave a couple inches of headspace for the air bubbles produced during fermentation to escape into.
I just leave my milk out in room temperature for about 24 hours. Every few hours, you can pick it up and just give it a shake like this. This will help the culture to circulate within the milk. That's it. Let's talk about fermentation time and milk kefir grain to milk ratio. Fermentation time really is dependent on a few factors: how much kefir grains you have, how much milk you have, and also the temperature of your house. The ideal temperature to ferment milk kefir is room temperature. Most people's house is about 20 to 25 degrees. My house is usually about 24, a little warmer than most, I believe. If your house is in the high 20s or high teens, that's fine as well. Just keep in mind the higher temperature will make your kefir ferment faster, lower temperature will make your kefir take a little longer time to ferment. So I use about 1 tablespoon of kefir grain to 4 cups of milk. This is not strict at all. The 1 tablespoon of kefir grain to 4 cups of milk is a general guideline so that I know my kefir ferment in about 1 day, give or take a few hours. This is very convenient for me because I know I will be there to collect the kefir when it's ready and it will not over ferment.
If you do accidentally over-ferment your kefir will look like this. The solid is separated from the liquid in large amounts in just a few extra hours. Simply shake the jar to mix the solid and liquid back together and then strain. Your kefir is still good to consume, but a little more sour. Whether your kefir is over-fermented or has been in the fridge for days, if you don't like the stronger taste, you can use them up in many recipes. I'll leave the links in the description below. As your kefir grains continue to feed on the milk, they will grow in volume. The more kefir grains you have, the more milk is required to feed them and keep them alive. I have almost 2 tablespoons of kefir grains now, so I'm going to split the grains into 2 separate jars. I can ferment double the amount of the milk as you can see, but I'm not going to because I won't be able to consume that much kefir. I'll be using 1 set of kefir grains to ferment the milk and store the other set of grains as my backup. At some point, when you have spare grains like I do or want to go on a vacation, you will want to pause fermentation for a while. Simply submerge your grains in milk in a sealed jar and store the jar in the fridge.
By keeping the grains in milk, you're making sure your grains have access to their food source. I have successfully kept 1 tablespoon of kefir grains in a liter of milk for about 1 month. The kefir grains will slowly feed on the lactose in the fridge, and eventually it will turn this milk into kefir as well. So when I have spare grains that I keep in the fridge, I like to rotate fermentation between the 2 sets of grains to make sure that all my grains are kept alive. Some people freeze kefir grains for long-term storage. I have tried this method before, but when I tried to revive my kefir grains, the culture was damaged and the kefir didn't taste good, so I do not recommend this method.
Hope you find this video helpful. I have the full printable recipe on my blog and you can grab the link in the description. See you next time.